So here we are at video 2 of our redirected series called Caught by Mercy. And this particular session is subtitled, The Mercy of a Storm. In Jonah chapter 1, verses 1 through 3, God instructed Jonah to go to Nineveh and announce judgment on the wicked people of Nineveh. And remember, the Ninevites, Nineveh was actually a part of the Assyrian Empire, which was created, as we learned, by Nimrod way back in the day. And so even though right now the Assyrian Empire was at a weakened state, they had already made a name for themselves of being very cruel. And not only were they cruel in battle and with others, they were a thorn in the Israelites' sides. They were the Israelites' enemy. And Nineveh was a major city in Assyria. It's kind of like New Orleans is a major city in Louisiana. And God was telling him, I want you to go to them. And I want you to tell them that they are wicked and that I will be passing judgment because of their wickedness. But Jonah, Jonah decided he was not going, and he was going to go in the complete opposite direction. He went to the port city of Joppa, and he decided he was going to get on a ship and go to Tarshish. Now, Tarshish is completely the opposite way of Nineveh. And so what he was really telling God is, I'm so not doing this. I am going the complete opposite direction. So one question is, why did Jonah refuse to inform the people of Nineveh of their impending judgment if they had been so wicked and cruel to the Israelites? Why did he not want to go and tell them, hey, God's coming for you, since they had been so wicked and cruel, particularly to the Israelites? As we learned in the summary, God had a long history of showing grace and mercy in response to repentance. So what Jonah was really saying, I don't want to go, because I know what you're going to do if I go. You're going to want to show them grace and mercy. Because as we learned, God had shown grace and mercy in abundance since the beginning. And Jonah didn't want the Ninevites to experience grace and mercy. Jonah said, nope. Because Jonah knew that God was he's telling them, hey, listen, go and tell the people that they're going to be judged. But because of what he had already seen God do, he knew that God was really sending him to minister to the Ninevites, to help grow the Ninevites. And Jonah said, nope, help grow my enemies? I don't even think so. I am going in the complete opposite direction. So Jonah got on the boat, headed in the complete opposite direction, and he was going to Tarshish. And the amazing thing is that, of course, we can see Jonah was in desperate need of a redirection, because you are going completely opposite and on purpose. Now that's Jonah, but we have to ask ourselves, where have I gone? What have I done? Or what situations have I stayed in too long while running from God's leading? Where, what, or who is my Tarshish? But now, of course, we know that the story was just getting started, and it didn't end there. God had a response to Jonah's need of redirection. So God sent this storm of mercy, I like to call it the storm of mercy, that got everyone's attention. And some may be wondering, how could a storm be considered mercy? And we'll see how God uses whatever he chooses to redirect us. Some of the key players, and so I like to always look at, to make the word applicable to our life today, to look at how does that relate to modern day. And so if we look at some of the key players that we're going to be learning about, how do we apply them to what would be today? So for today, Jonah would be considered the churchgoer or the believer. The pagan sailors who we're going to hear about will be people in society currently living for the world, or worshiping worldly influence, or have a mindset on pleasing the world. And And then the Ninevites would be people who have made themselves our enemies, misused and mistreated us and others, and are not living in a kind manner. They're just not loving or kind. Although the pagan sailors were hysterical, when God sent this raging storm that was just going through the ship, had it bouncing all over the place, and the pagan sailors were absolutely hysterical, and they started calling on their gods because they worshiped false gods at that time. Jonah was sleeping. Jonah was sleeping in the cargo area. Now, while God was speaking, Jonah was sleeping. Jonah appeared comfortable in his defiance and his disobedience. What do we tell ourselves, our self-talk, that allows us to become comfortable in our disobedience? For me, I've told myself I just didn't have time and thought that that was a good excuse to God. But what about you? What is something that you might tell yourself that allows you to be comfortable and what you know is disobedience unto God? So now the pagan sailors were calling on their gods and to save them, which got them nowhere fast. It's amazing because there come a point in time, and even our own lives, when we may realize that the world cannot help and do for me what only God can. Once the sailors realized that it was Jonah's God causing the storm, they began praying to God, our God. And they were asking for his mercy. They even questioned Jonah about his defiance to God and admitted to God that they know he had his own reasons for allowing this storm. This was once the pagan sailors now. And they were telling God, I know you have your reasons for allowing this storm. And they started worshiping and praising him and calling on his name. Then eventually they threw Jonah into the sea. And their amazing response to God's mercy was a sight to see. They offered God a sacrifice and vowed to serve God. The pagan sailors offered God a sacrifice and vowed to serve him. In essence, this storm of mercy led to their salvation experience. Sometimes God needs to teach us some things right there in the midst of our storm that would completely change the direction of our life, just like he did right here for what was once pagan sailors, but now they were believers through this storm. With one hand of mercy, God gave salvation to the sailors, and with the other hand of mercy, God dealt with Jonah and his disobedience and his defiance. What a response, and what of God. I can show grace and mercy here by saving you, and I can show grace and mercy here by redirecting you in your disobedience. But in both cases, I'm chasing after you. What a response